You know what the problem with the Democratic opposition to Trump is? They are willing to use damn near anything to try to stick him with something. One of the most telling things is Keith Olbermann's 50 craziest things Trump has done. Now, I've noticed he said the same thing essentially 5 times, and that was about the electoral fraud. I get it, Keith. You really have to stretch to get 50, but you could have just cut it down to 40 and not repeated anything. But I digress. Of these 50 issues, I counted only 14 of them had to do with anything of any importance. And that's a general definition. I'm not including whether I believe Trump did something wrong on that, just on topics that actually matter and are not just the outrage express about what he said at the National Prayer Breakfast, or that he uses Propecia, something that does something for hair growth. Why would that matter in the grand scheme of things, Keith? Only 14 things had anything to do with important issues, like the Russia thing. I'll give him that. If it's really going on, that's important. I don't believe it is going on. But if so, that's pretty big. On electoral fraud, I actually only included one because, well, why am I going to include the same thing 5 times? That's inflating the count. On his cabinet appointments, on his executive orders. And the reason I bring up this video is because it is a microcosm of what is wrong with today's opposition. Instead of being selective and precise in its attacks on Trump, it wants to make fun of the way he says things in tweets. It wants to make fun of his appearance. It wants to call his wife and 10-year-old son names. It wants to get outraged about how Trump is not necessarily kowtowing to intelligence agencies. These are all things that ultimately undermine the opposition. And this helps nobody, because I want desperately to be part of a good opposition. I don't really support this man. I don't support the financial deregulation. I don't support that he's done everything through executive order. I think that's an authoritarian sort of action. I'm not saying he's a fascist leader like a lot of people have hysterically been claiming, but that is an authoritarian action from a rather authoritarian personality. Why can't we just focus on that? Even the extent to which they focus on his cabinet appointments, I'll argue, is sort of window dressing, because bureaucracies have a way of resisting change if they don't believe that it'll either A, keep the bureaucracy going, or B, is in the interest of the country. Bureaucracies tend to be rather unmoving in that regard. Why can't we keep it on policy, and on actually bad policy? Don't attack them on the trade deals. Don't attack them on not necessarily following our intelligence agencies. Their job is to lie, including to Congress. The job of the opposition is not to rewrite history so that the people who voted for the Iraq War are good because Trump did not like the Iraq War. A good opposition does not knee-jerk oppose everything the government does. Because you know what the problem with it is? You can't separate the wheat from the chaff. Because there are things that I really do not like Trump on. I already stated those. But I can't be part of this opposition. It's too stupid. It's too hypocritical. Lastly, it's too full of itself. Because even when they're not out and out saying that the people who support him are idiots and bigots, they're treating them as if they are. I mean, let me use Keith Olbermann again. He does this weird combination of talking down to them like they are children. And after all, the vast majority of us paying attention to politics are grown adults, so that's patronizing in and of its own. But also talking like a hostage negotiator. I'm not going to yell at you. I'm not going to try to change your mind. I'm not going to call you names. It's like, I get it. Part of it's in response to this whole patronizing thing that the Democratic establishment has been doing, but it also talks to these people like the average Trump supporter has a gun right to Keith Olbermann's head. These aren't hostage takers, Keith. They're ordinary political citizens who oppose you. And these are not bigots to the rest of the liberals listening. These people, well, I'm going to take that back. There almost certainly are a good chunk of bigots in the mix of Trump supporters. But if you want to be a good opposition, you don't treat people like they're crap. At least act like you like them. Be convincing. After all, a lot of you are politicians. You should be good at lying by now. That is all.